So we're going to start on Dalet Amud Aleph. We're up to the Gemara Itmor Shabbos V'Yom Tov. So we're going to continue with some of the laws that we learned in the Mishnah. We learned in the Mishnah about a egg that was laid either on Shabbos or on Yom Tov. Anyway, according to Beis Hillel, you're not allowed to use the egg. We had various different reasons, but the bottom line is the Mishnah says that according to Beis Hillel, an egg that was laid on Yom Tov, the same thing if it was laid on Shabbos, it would be prohibited. You can't eat it that day. You have to eat it the next day. So here we learned a memra. Itmar, whenever we have opinions of the Amiroyim of the later generation, it starts with Itmar. So we learned in this memra, called a memra, that Itmar, that Shabbos v'Yom Tov, that if you have Shabbos and Yom Tov, which means they are next to each other. So first you have Shabbos, and then Yom Tov that follows. Or you have Yom Tov and Shabbos follows. Either way, well, the Memra says Shabbos and Yom Tov follows. The issue is, what happens with the egg that was laid on Shabbos? We know we can't use it on Shabbos. That's what it says. But what about Yom Tov? The Yom Tov that follows. Is the Yom Tov that follows, are you allowed to use the egg or not? And Rashi says Shabbos v'Yom Tov. So Shabbos v'Yom Tov means hasmuchim, they're next to each other. That means that Yom Tov comes after Shabbos. But Rashi says, v'hu adin, the same thing is true Yom Tov is Shabbos. The same thing would be true the other way around. If first came Yom Tov and then Shabbos. So we have a disagreement. Can you use it on the following day? If the following day is a Shabbos or the following day is a Yom Tov, if it was born. If it was laid the day born. Rav Omar, Rav says, Nelda bazeh, asura bazeh. If it was laid on one of them, it's prohibited on the other one. Rabbi Chaim Omar, and Rabbi Chaim says, Nelda bazeh, mutares bazeh. If it was born on one, it's permitted on the other one. So, what's the argument over here? What's the rationale? Whether if it was laid on the day before, can you use it the next day? That's
according to Rav. According to Rav, it doesn't make a difference.
Children in the background over here. Sorry about that. Yeah.
According to Rav, it doesn't make a difference whether it's Yom Tov Shabbos or Shabbos Yom Tov.
Well, in this case, no.
Okay.
We'll see. In this case, it doesn't make a difference. Let's see what the Gemara thinks and what the Gemara is going to. The Gemara originally thinks that the reason for the prohibition is because when a Shabbos follows Yom Tov or a Yom Tov follows Shabbos, it becomes like one continuous Yom Tov or one continuous Shabbos. If you don't have a weekday in between, it continues. It becomes like one Kedusha. If you can't eat the egg on Shabbos, and then automatically you can't eat it on Yom Tov, because the Yom Tov continues the Shabbos, or vice versa. Shabbos continues Yom Tov to Shabbos. So that really would mean that's called Kedusha Achas. That means it's one sanctity. If you can't eat it on the Yom Tov, you can't eat it on the Shabbos that follows. You can't eat it on Shabbos, you can't eat it on the Yom Tov. So the Gemara says, Nema, shall we say? What is that? Rav, why does Rav say that it is prohibited? That Kedusha Achasi, that this is really one Kedusha. The Yom Tov that follows Shabbos or Shabbos follows Yom Tov is one Kedusha. What does it mean in one Kedusha? Kedusha Achasi, Hariheim ki yoim echad oruch. It's like one long day. So the Shabbos and Yom Tov, those of us that we have these 3-day Yom Tov sometimes, it looks so stretched out. It looks like a long Yom Tov. So here, 2 days is also a long Yom Tov. So saying it's a long Yom Tov, meaning it's not too separate. You can't divide it up. The Yom Tov that follows Shabbos is just a continuation of Shabbos. And the other way around as well. So If you're going to say that's the reason why, if it was late on Shabbos, you can't eat it on Yom Tov, because Yom Tov is just a continuation of the Shabbos. But the Gemara says, Rav, but didn't Rav say, Halacha karbo zekenim v'alibid Rabbi Wolosow? The Omar Shtei Kedusha say. Rav very clearly states that the ruling remains like the four elders, as discussed over there. And according to Rabbi Wolosow, the way there's different interpretation of what the four elders said. He rules like the four elders according to the way Rabbi Wolosow say they said. The bottom line is, Arbos Kenim Alibid Rabbi Wolosow. So Rashi, this is Be'erevin Be'pere Kol Ma'arvin Daf Chasov Beis. Rashi gives you the reference where it's from, the source. But in any event, what is the halacha? The Omar Shtei Kedusha say. He says there's Kedushas. We had it before. We're talking about the Erevin. What happens if on Shabbos you can only walk 2,000 amas within the boundary, the Tchum Shabbos. That's called the Ber Shabbos. So let's say in the city, outside of the city limits, you can walk only 2,000 amas. What happens if a person wants to walk 4,000 amas outside of the city limits? He can put an Erev Tchum in what's called 2,000 amas towards the east, let's say, right? So then his place of resting is considered to be not in the city, but 2,000 amas out of the city. He basically extended the boundaries of the city to where he put the Erev. And then he can walk to the other side another 2,000 amas. So he gets 4,000 amas. Now, you can't walk in both directions. You can't extend it. If you extend it to the east, you can't extend it to the west. Only one direction, because we consider the place where you put the Erev, that's the place where you are staying. So you can have 2,000 amas from there. But you don't have, matter of fact, you actually lose. You don't even have 2,000 amas the other way, because your place is considered to be outside of the city in the other direction. But he rules over there that if it is Shabbos and Yom Tov, you can have on Shabbos, you can have one Erev to the east, and on the Yom Tov, or on the second day, you have an Erev to the west, because these are not the same day. You can make them differently. One day you can walk 4,000 amas to the east, and the next day you can walk 4,000 amas to the west, because the Shabbos and the Yom Tov that follow are two separate things. So the Gemara's kasha is, how could we say that Rav says that it's prohibited? Because it's considered to be Kedusha Achas, one sanctity. But Rav doesn't rule like that. Rav says Beferish, he specifically says that it's two Kedushas. So that's not the reason why, if the egg was laid on Shabbos, we shouldn't be able to eat it on Yom Tov, because it's one Kedusha, because Rav doesn't hold that. And this halach is brought down in the name of Rav. Rav doesn't hold that it's two Kedushas. So the Gemara says there's another reason. The machlokes between Rav and Rav Yochanan is arguing Bachona de Rav. So in our case, this egg was laid on Shabbos or on Yom Tov. And the question is, are you allowed to prepare from Shabbos to the next Yom Tov? Which means normally preparing, meaning a person is not allowed to do something that he does. In this case, we're saying that the Eibishter prepared it. The person doesn't lay the eggs. The Eibishter makes it that the egg is laid today. You didn't prepare anything. But it ends up being that how are we eating an egg on the Yom Tov that followed the Shabbos? Oh, God prepared for you an egg. He prepared you the egg on Shabbos so you can eat it on Yom Tov. Is that preparation something which is prohibited? So that's the machloikis between Rav and Rabbi
No, so they're saying that if God prepared it, it's a question. It's sort of you could say the manna. God prepared the manna on Friday.
That's okay. But Friday
it wasn't
is allowed to prepare for the weekday. Actually, we learn from there.
But if God prepared something for you to have on Shabbos or on Yom Tov,
or you can't. But on Shabbos itself, you can't have it, and you want to have it on the next day. But if it came from God on Shabbos, you can't have it the next Yom Tov, because God prepared it for you, and you can't have it the next Yom Tov. You find it astounding that God gives you something and then you're not allowed to use it.
Yeah.
If He gave it to you, why shouldn't you be able to use it?
Right. And if He gave it to you at a certain time.
He gave it to you to have it after Shabbos. Well, you go along with Rabbi Chaim. We'll see what the halacha is. Okay. So they're arguing about the Chona de Rabba. Let's see what the Rashi says. Chona de Rabba. What is Chona de Rabba? The Omar Chona b'dei Shemayim mitasra miyom tov l'Shabbos. That if it was prepared by the hands of Hashem, it's prohibited from Yom Tov to Shabbos. Why? Because the Suda Shabbos Boi Hazmona B'Yem Chol Megderes HaKosov. The Torah wants the Shabbos should be prepared from a weekday. Shabbos, a weekday needs to prepare for Shabbos, not a Yom Tov day for Shabbos. It works the other way too, from Yom Tov to Shabbos, as we see clearly in this halacha. I don't know why Rashi changes. I'm sure there's Mefarshim here, but Rashi changes from Yom Tov to Shabbos. Maybe it's more obvious from Shabbos to Yom Tov. Rashi wants to say even from Yom Tov to Shabbos. But before we learned in the Mishnah, before we learned the whole time, yes, the pasuk of Hakona talks about weekday for Shabbos and not Yom Tov for Shabbos. But before we said that Yom Tov is also called Shabbos. So that means also Shabbos Yom Tov. You go, yeah. I'm pretty sure it means both ways, but Rashi just gives you one example. The Torah wants a weekday to prepare for Shabbos and not a Yom Tov for Shabbos. And the same thing is for Yom Tov, which is called Shabbos, as we said before. The Torah wants a weekday and not a Shabbos to prepare for Yom Tov. But anyway, so here we're talking about Shabbos. Rashi talks specifically about Shabbos. I got to look them first why Rashi says that over here. But it says the Suda Shabbos boy hazmona miyem chol b'gzeres hakosim. The Torah said the Shabbos meal has to have a weekday prepared. It says ve'chinu es asher yaviu. They have to prepare it from a weekday. We say generally a Friday is a weekday. Doesn't say, so therefore a weekday prepares for Shabbos. So therefore the egg that came from Shabbos or from Yom Tov cannot be used on Shabbos. And even though it came from Hashem, that's what Rav holds. So Rav Isle Achona de Rav holds of that when it's prepared b'dei Shemayim, he holds of that Achona. He holds that's considered preparation and you're not allowed to. But Rabbi Yochanan Lesle Achona de Rabba, Rabbi Yochanan doesn't hold of the preparation of Rabba. This is not preparing. Either he holds, he doesn't know from the pasuk, or doesn't, but he doesn't hold that this will be prepared. And the Gemara says, Kitanoi, that this two opinions of Rabbi and Rabbi Yochanan is the same as we find an argument amongst Tanoi. It says in the Beitzah, Nelda b'Shabbos, one opinion says, If it was late on Shabbos, Teichel b'Yom Tov. You should eat it on Yom Tov. And if b'Yom Tov, if it was late on Yom Tov, Teichel b'Shabbos. That's like the opinion of Rabbi Yechman, that you could eat it. Rabbi Yehuda Mishum Rabbi Lezer, maybe disagrees. He said in Rabbi Lezer, that it's still a machlokes, and the halacha is like the sila that you're not allowed to eat it. Shebeshamay emrim tochel, beshamay tak allowed you to eat it. Besila emrim loy tochel. Even if it was on the Yom Tov that follows Shabbos, Besila hold you can't eat it. So he goes along, this Tanoim, the two opinions over here is the two opinions in the Mishnah. Okay, so just like we have a machlokes of Ameroim, we also have a machlokes of Tanoim. The Gemara relates that Ush Pizachne, that was the host, the Rabbi Barava, he was hosting Rabbi Barava, this rabbi. Havele Hanach Beitzah Yom Tov l'Shabbos. He had eggs that were laid on Yom Tov, and he wanted to give them on Shabbos. Yom Tov l'Shabbos, Hayem Noldu. They were laid today on Yom Tov. He wanted to eat it the next day Shabbos. He didn't want to eat the eggs today. Not allowed to eat the eggs on Yom Tov. He wanted to eat the next day. What was his question? He didn't want to eat raw eggs, so he wanted to roast them on Yom Tov, and then eat them on Shabbos. Yom Tov was on Friday, and they were late on Friday, and he wants to keep the eggs to eat them on Shabbos, but he didn't want that. He wanted to have good eggs on Shabbos. Also, so he comes to Rabbi Barava. He was his host. So he comes to him, to Rabbi Barava, Amalei, and he says to him, Ma'ila dvino ha'idno, v'nichlinhu l'mochar. What is the halacha? Okay, he didn't want to eat it now, but can I roast it today? He wanted to roast it on Yom Tov on Friday, and he wanted to go eat it, the roasted eggs on Shabbos. Ladvino Zoktrashi, litzloisam ha'idno. He wanted to roast them today on Yom Tov. And what was his question? He wanted to know, Mi asiri v'tiltul by v'yemaloi. He wanted to know, am I allowed to move them today? Because since I'm not allowed to eat them today, but he wanted to move them. He wanted to roast them for the next day.
Isn't there a separate question of preparing one day for the next day?
But here it's Yom Tov, and the question is, can Yom Tov prepare
for Shabbos?
Shabbos? Is that the Shabbos that follows? Yom Tov alone is awesome, and Shabbos alone is also for various reasons. Also, maybe because Achana D'Rabba too, but whether the Shabbos that follows Yom Tov is permissible, that we don't know. That we have a machlokes. But his question was, am I allowed to roast it on Friday, on Yom Tov? So they have it on Shabbos. He wanted to know, am I allowed to move it? And he knows that you're not allowed to eat the egg on Yom Tov, but he wanted to know, can he roast them today so they can eat them on Shabbos? So apparently he thought, for sure I'm allowed to eat them the next day. He just wanted to know if he's allowed to roast them today for tomorrow. But to eat them, he thought he was allowed to. So Rabbi Baraba answered him, my diet. So what is your thought? Why do you think that you can eat them tomorrow? Do you think because you think the halacha is when we have Rabbi Yechon, halacha Rabbi Yechon? Since this is a disagreement between Rabbi and Rabbi Yechon, And Rabbi Yechon, Allah is like Rabbi Yechon. Rabbi Yechon says that you're allowed to eat it from the next day. You're allowed to eat it. He says the my daituch. He says, what is your opinion? That you're asking me, can you roast it? The pshita of the muter the mocha mihu. In other words, you are obvious to you that the next day you're allowed to use them because show the karmelon because the halacha is that Rabbi Yechon halacha remains like Rabbi Yechon. Miu betiltel ha'ita asiru. But you're thinking that even though you're allowed to eat it, but maybe you're not allowed to move him around today. Even Rabbi Yechon allows you to eat it. It doesn't allow you to roast it on Friday for Shabbos. You can eat it raw. You can take a raw egg. But on the day itself, even if Yechon holds that you can't eat it and you can't move it. So that's why he's asking him, are you allowed to or not? Rabbi Yechon allows you to eat it the next day. But while the halacha is like Rabbi Yechon, but I'm wondering, am I allowed to move it today? So my daitach, Rabbi Yechon, Rabbi Yechon. So he says no. Afilu Rabbi Yechon lekoshori elo l'goyim l'mochem. Even Rabbi Yechon doesn't allow it only for you to drink up the egg on the next day. Aval b'yoyme, but during the day, loy. It's prohibited to move it around. Can't do it even the tilt. And the Gemara brings a support for this. Botanya. And this is a support that even if we're allowed to use it the next day, but on that day you're not allowed to move. Achas Beitzah shenelda b'Shabbos. Achas Beitzah shenelda b'Yom Tov. Whether it was late on Shabbos or it was late on Yom Tov, you can't move it. You can't move it at all. Loi lachasis b'Sakli, not to cover a vessel. So let's say you have an opening, you want to close it with the egg. And also not to lean on it, the leg of the bed. Again, we talked about it last time, but it seems a little strange how they did it. The Gemara always gives the example. They used an egg. They used the points, the 2 points of the egg. If you put it exactly at the right point, then the egg won't break because the mass is distributed exactly around the circle, so it doesn't push down. The egg isn't going to crack. If you put well, why would we use such a thing? I mean, the possibility of failure is very, very probable over here. Just twist the egg and drop it, you crush it. But anyways, the Gemara wants to just say, as far as we're concerned here, that you're not allowed to move the egg. Besides not eating it, you're also not allowed to move it. So that's the answer that he answered him, that even if this should be permitted to eat the next day, like Rabbi Yochanan, but still you would not be allowed to move it around today. Further, the Gemara relates that Ush Pizachne, the Rapapa, this was a host of Rapapa. That's one version. Amri law. Other people say Gabra, the also the Rapapa. It's a person that came in front of Rapapa. So whether it was his host or somebody asked him the question. He had these eggs that were laid on Shabbos, and he wanted to use it on Yom Tov. This is the other way around than before. These were laid on Shabbos, And he wants to use a yontif. Of course, on Shabbos, you're not allowed to roast him. It's Shabbos. Also, the Kameh, he came before him. So he asked him the regular question, Amalei. He asked him, what is the din? Can I eat these eggs? Can I eat these eggs on yontif? Amalei. So he told him, Zil Hoyidna, go now. But told him I'll come back tomorrow. He didn't know the answer right now. He wanted to know, can he eat it? I mean, it was Shabbos still. So he didn't need it. It wasn't an immediate answer. He can wait till the next day. So he says, leave now, come back tomorrow. Why did he do that? The Gemara says after he had his meal and he had some l'chaim and he had some drinks, he didn't want to rule. You're not allowed to give a ruling when you're a little intoxicated. I guess he had in his meal, he had some wine, some liquor, whatever, some beer. The Gemara says that Rab lemuki amoyre ilavi. And the Gemara says that the Rav, so the example, he would not put an amoyre ilavi over him. In those days, when they would, the rabbi would give a drush. So he had in front of him what's called a meturgeman, a translator. The rabbi would speak lowly and softly in front of the meturgeman, the translator. The translator would speak it out loud for the rest of the community. He spoke it loud. So he says that Rav would not put a translator, the meturgeman, by him, miyama tova lechavre. From one Yom Tov, after the meal, that he had the meal of Yom Tov, for the next Yom Tov, he would not answer until the next day because he had some to drink during the meal. Again, look at the Rashi. The Rav lemuki amoyre lavi. The Rav lemuki amoyre lavi says loy hoya mamid meturgeman lefonov. He did not place a translator in front of him, lidresh drosha lerabim, so that he would expound the drosha for the public. Meyoyim tova lechavri, from Yom Tov to the next day, to the next one. So he says, Meyoyim tova lechavri, from Yom Tov to the next koloimar. Misha'osa hayoyim Yom Tov. Once he made today Yom Tov, which is Dain Lachar Suda, that means he made it Yom Tov, he made a feast, he made a meal. Ad Machar, he didn't put down the person to give a drasha after the meal. And the reason, Mishum Shikrus, because of drunkenness. And Rashi explains from Shikrus, the Rav used to give halachas in his drasha, as the Gemara says in Krisus. And the shikr also loidis. And a drunk person is prohibited to rule. It says, don't drink wine. In Parsha Shmini, then it says, to instruct the Bnei Yisrael. So you mean when the rabbi is intoxicated, he's not allowed to give a ruling. So he just brings you an example from Rav, that the Rav would not give his drush, in which the drushi would give rulings, or put down the Amoira, in which the Amoira would give the drush of the Rav to present it, because he would give halachas, and he didn't want to do the halachas while he was intoxicated. So he didn't give him the answer. He wanted to know if he can eat the eggs that were laid on Shabbos, can he eat it on Yom Tov? So when he came the next day, Amar Lei, he told him, turn the page to Dalet Amud Beis. So he says, Iku hashta. Ishtaloi. Iku hashta means if I did it now, if I ruled right now, when you came to me the first time, if I had instructed you yesterday, giving the hara while I was drunk, ishtaloi, I would have forgotten. I would have made a mistake. And I would say, shachachti v'shakakti, I would have forgotten and made a mistake. And I would say, yes, it's okay. And the reason why you would make a mistake, because usually, as we say, Rav and Rabbi Yochanan, the halacha is like Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan allows the next day, because all other places we know the halacha is that Rav and Rabbi Yochanan, halacha Rabbi Yochanan. That when you have a machlokes between Rav and Rabbi Yochanan, the halacha is like Rabbi Yochanan. But he says, Akshav, but now I remember that I pushed you away. It was good that I pushed you off, because he remembers. Adayem till today v'niskarti, what I remembered. So it's good I didn't tell you yesterday. What? V'amri loch. So yesterday I would tell you Rav Rabbi Yochanan, that when there is a machlokes between Rav Rabbi Yochanan, the law is like Rabbi Yochanan, and therefore it's permissible. But Omar Rava says later on in Hamad Aleph, Hilchas Kavosi de Rab B'Hanitlas. The halacha in these three cases is like Rav. Bein lekula, bein lechumra, whether he's lenient or more strict, the halacha in these three cases. What are the three cases? Rashi said, halacha was the Rabban Tlas. Sha'omar le'inyan Beitzah zu m'Shabbos v'Yom Tov. One thing is that he says, lechumra in this case, that for Shabbos and Yom Tov, you're not allowed to eat it the next day. Then we have further next one, lekamei, and later on, b'shnei yom tovim shekolis, nechlek lehokel. And the two yom tovim of kolis, he's lenient that you could eat from the next day. V'ashlishi b'shnei yom shel Rosh Hashanah, nechlek leachmed. But by the 2 days Rosh Hashanah, he was to make stringent. In all these cases, the halacha is like Rav. And therefore, he said, I would have forgotten. He would have ruled like Rabbi Yochanan. So the bottom line is that it's osur. The halacha is like Rav, that the egg that was laid on Shabbos cannot be eaten on Yom Tov. Same thing, Yom Tov cannot be eaten on Shabbos. Okay, that's for that. Let's continue the next piece. Zog di Gemara Om Rabbi Yochanan. Says Rabbi Yochanan, Eitzim shenoshru min hadekel b'Shabbos. They have trees that have fallen down from the palm tree on Shabbos. A tree fell down, or branches fell down. Branches of the palm tree fell down on Shabbos. Min hadekel. Zok Rashi, shenishbar b'Shabbos. It was broken on Shabbos. Apparently, if it was broken from before Shabbos, but they just fall down, it would be a different halacha that we prepared ready. Here it wasn't ready. You couldn't use it before Shabbos. And only on Shabbos you can use it. I mean, I'm saying what Rashi emphasizes, Menadekel, Shenishbar b'Shabbos. It says so in the inside of the Gemara. Eitzim Shenoshim Menadekel b'Shabbos. They will fall down on Shabbos. And Rashi has Menadekel, Shenishbar b'Shabbos. Not only did it fall down, but it was broken on Shabbos. Rashi's trying to tell you, L'chayra, that it was already broken from before. It broke on Shabbos. So he says, also lasikim b'Yom Tov. Can't use it on Yom Tov. It wasn't ready on Shabbos. So he says, which Yom Tov? The Yom Tov that follows. Asur lasikim b'Yom Tov. You're not allowed to use them on Yom Tov. The Yom Tov that follows the Shabbos. even though we have just ruled like Rav, right? We've just ruled like Rav. No, Rav doesn't allow it. But this is Rabbi Yochanan saying. Rabbi Yochanan disagreed with Rav. Rabbi Yochanan said that you're not allowed to eat it that you're allowed to eat it the next day. So he says, but if it's a tree that came down from Shabbos, you're not allowed to use it in the next Shabbos. Beitzah, don't respond, don't challenge me from the halacha of Beitzah. Zokt Rashi, Beitzah. Shomarti bo neilta bozeh muteres bozeh. Over there, I ruled that if it was laid on Shabbos, you can use it on Yom Tov or Yom Tov and Shabbos. But here it's also the Hocha Shaykh L'Meiser Tfei. Over here, it's more applicable to make it osur by these branches that came off the palm tree. My time. What's the reason? Because Beitzah mishum de b'yoyma nazi nami chazya legoyba. The egg on Yom Tov itself is also fit. Technically, it's fit to. You can eat the egg on the raw egg on Shabbos. Umay time, Beitzah kivduyim. Ilav de asiri mishum de nildo b'Shabbos. Had you not prohibited because it was late on Shabbos, you can drink it raw. There's people that eat their eggs so they gobble it up just straight from the egg. And you are not allowing it. And you're making him wait till tomorrow. So, midi yode dia devashyema asura. So then you're going to know, people are going to know that on Shabbos itself it's awesome. If we're going to allow you to eat it the next day, Rabbi Yochanan says, I don't have a problem. Why? Because the people see, I'm not allowing you to eat the egg on Shabbos. You have to wait till Yom Tov. You could technically eat that on Shabbos. It means people will remember that on Shabbos an egg is awesome if it's late on Shabbos. When you allow it the next day and the day before you didn't allow it, so you know the Basyema Asiri. So people know that on the day it's awesome. So the fact that you're going to allow it the next day, they're not going to say, well, you can eat the egg, it's okay. Aval Eitzim, the Shabbos, but Eitzim on Shabbos can't use it on Shabbos. Keep them to be a Mayu B'lavi Sur Muktzah Nami Lechosu. Even if it's not the Isur of Muktzah because it wasn't ready, but you can't use wood on Shabbos because you can burn. Shemivar Neish B'Shabbos, you can't burn. Can't use a fire on Shabbos. So, Eitzim Lechosu Yamayu that are not fit for that day, I Shori Luhu Lemochar, if you are going to allow it for the next day, people are going to say, if you're going to let them use the wood, they're going to allow it to use it on Shabbos. That even, no, if they came down on Shabbos, which means, if the wood came down on Yom Tov, sorry, take that back. By the egg, we worry that by the egg, we don't have to worry anything. Because on Shabbos, you could technically eat it. We still don't allow it. So if you allow it to eat on Yom Tov, you're not going to come and say that on Yom Tov it's allowed if it was late on Yom Tov. But by the wood, you don't see that it's not allowed. Why? On Shabbos, he can't use the wood. So it's not prohibited by him. If you're going to allow to use the wood and the next day, people are going to say, even if the wood should fall down on Yom Tov itself, they're also permitted. And the esma, why didn't they use it yesterday? Not because there is a prohibition on the day itself when it comes. It's because of Shabbos that they're not fit to be burnt. So that's why you allow them. Ishoruhu lemochad osil lemeimer. He says, im noflu beibayoim nami shoru. People who come to say even if it falls on Yom Tov itself, it should be permitted also. And the reason they're going to say if you're allowed to, if they fall in the day, how come we didn't from the Shabbos lechazal? Because it was Shabbos. We can't let you use the wood even the next day because people might make a mistake that even if the wood falls down on Shabbos on Yom Tov, you should be able to use it, and they're going to say that the reason why we didn't use it last Shabbos yesterday was because we can't use wood on Shabbos, we can't burn the wood on Shabbos. By the egg, person is not going to think, oh, that even the egg is laid on Yom Tov, you can eat it, because he's going to see that we didn't allow you to eat it yesterday when it was laid on Shabbos. We didn't let you eat it, even though you could eat it, but we didn't allow you. So he knows that the reason why we're allowing you now by Yom Tov to eat it is because it was born the day before. It was laid on the day before on Shabbos. That's why we're allowing it Yom Tov. You're not going to make a mistake that even the egg is laid on Yom Tov, you should allow it. But by the wood, it's not clear. People are going to think, oh, we're using it on Yom Tov. Yeah, maybe if it falls on Yom Tov, it should be permissible as well. We're using wood on Yom Tov. If you can use, how come we didn't use it on Shabbos? Shabbos is not allowed wood because you can't burn it. That's why it's more strict. So he doesn't allow the wood to be used. It's interesting. This is a little bit of exera that we discussed about before. The rabbis don't make, but this is in a specific incident. He goes along with that. It seems like exera that he. But this is the opinion of Rabbi Chaim. An egg that was laid on Shabbos can be eaten on Yom Tov, according to Rabbi Chaim. Wood that fell from the tree on Shabbos cannot be used on Yom Tov for wood. Okay, so let's go back. Amar Rav Masne, says Rav Masne. Okay, what happens is eitzim shenoshru min hadekel l'toich hatanur b'yom tov. You have wood that fell right from the palm tree into the oven on Yom Tov. Of course, you're not allowed to. Wood that comes from the dekel on Yom Tov, we're not allowed to use wood that comes on Yom Tov that was muktzah. But it fell right into the fire, into the oven, into the burner. He says, now it turns out, I'm not going to be able to cook on Yom Tov altogether because now you have muktzah. Now you got muktzah wood in there. But he says, marbe aleihem eitzim uchonim umasikol. You add ready-made wood that you can use for Yom Tov, and then you can light it all up together. So just add, I guess, more wood that is prepared. Sometimes you have a little small branch fall in. What are you going to do? So he says, add more wood, and then you can do it. But he's turning around when he's in the oven, he's gonna move the wood around. He's moving Isur Muktzah. When you move it in the oven from corner to corner, you Muktzah wood. And the Gemara says, Kibon deruba dehatera ninu. Since the majority is permissible, the new wood that he put in, so when he's turning around the wood, he's actually turning around in a permissible because it's bottle in the rov. The rov is permissible wood, so we don't care that there is the wood of the palm tree then. But you are now, when you're adding more wood, You have an Isser there because you have the wood from the decal that fell down on Yom Tov, which you can't use. And now you're adding to be Mavatli Isser. The Gemara Mavatl Isser Lechatchila, the Gemara says, Biyodayim, Rashi says. I mean, you're actively, it's not that it became bottle, it's not that mixed into a little bit of it, something mixed into a kosher soup, you had something treif, so it's bottle. Here, you have a part of a dekel, a tree, it can be used, and you're adding more wood. V'tanan, and we learned in a Mishnah, ein mevatlin isur lechatchila. You can't nullify, you can't make a majority. The afal gav the isur bottle beruva, even though that isur becomes nullified by majority, but hani mili heichad yarav mela. That's only where it's by itself got mixed in. Abu la ruvi v'levatuli biyadayim. But to go ahead and make it bottle actively with your hands, that's also. The Hochi Tanan b'Mesechta Trumas Perik Hey Mishnah Test. That's what we learned there. That what does it says over there? Tishim v'Tisha. If you have 99, Truma you need 100. So if you have 99 mixed in with one kodesh, so it's not bottle yet. 99 to 1, the kodesh is still the truma. You have truma. Truma is bottle b'meya, so you're short 1. And then after the mixture of chozav and nofal, social chulin. So now you have 99, can't eat 99 saw because you have 1 saw of truma. It's all gone, 99 times as much. So then you have another saw of chulin fall in there. Im shoygig mutter. If by accident, it's permissible. So now you got 100. But if you did it intentionally, you threw in to elevate the truma also. If you deliberately add that 100, then it's no good. So how could you put the kosher utanan? We learned in the Mishnah mevatl islachatchila. You can't be mevatl islachatchila. And the Gemara says hanimili b'dairaisa. That's only by the Torah that you can't be mevatl and isur. Here, what's the isur? The isur is muktzah. Muktzah is midrabanon. The wood that came down from the tree, from the dekel on Yom Tov, was not into the oven. Is midrabanon it's also because it's muktzah. Muktzah is not minatorah. So when it comes a din of the Torah, we say you can't be mevatl the isur. Avol midrabanon, kigay muktzah dahacha. Like mutz over here, mevatli. Then you could be mevatli. So that's why, in this case, he allows to add to it. Okay, we'll leave it over here today, and we'll continue. I just wanted to finish off with what we started off by saying that they saw great miracles in the whole story by the previous Rebbe in his incarceration. And like those people that wanted to do him bad, they were forced to free him. Because the local people, they wanted to keep the Rebbe in prison. It was only from the government that they forced their hand, that they made him free. The Rebbe says, from this we see that we are guaranteed, if we stand strong for Yiddishkeit, wherever we have to stand, if we stand up for Yiddishkeit, and we know and we are confident that we are going to be successful, then we'll be successful. Because it really depends on our attitude. If we feel like we're weak and we're not strong and we're not sure and we hesitate, then it's others pick it up and we can't be as successful. If you took the stand as the previous Rebbe, took a stand of standing proud and with force, and at the end he overcame. So to us, we should have freedom, redemption, and only good news. Thank you for joining me, and see everybody again next week. Mitzvah Hashem.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
everyone.
Rabbi.
Thank you so much for coming. See you next week. Be'ezras Hashem.